Captain Harris stepped off the transport onto the smooth, silver floor of Xyrath Prime. The air was heavy with a strange, metallic scent, and the sky above glowed with a soft violet light. Towering buildings stretched high, made of materials that seemed to shine from inside. He had never seen a world like this, not even in the holovids he had watched as a child. Humans had only just begun exploring the galaxy, and here he was, the only human in a gathering of hundreds of alien leaders. He looked around nervously. Creatures of every shape and size moved through the massive halls. Some had 6 arms, some had no legs, some had eyes that glowed like small suns. They whispered to each other, their voices a strange music of clicks, hums, and low roars. Harris felt small and out of place, but he kept his head high. He was not here to make friends. He was here to represent humanity. A tall figure approached, more elegant and imposing than the others. This was Commander Vraxos, the leader of the Xyrathi, known across the galaxy for his wisdom and his strict rules. His skin shimmered with a metallic blue sheen, and his eyes glowed with a soft golden light. He looked at Harris carefully as if measuring every detail. "Welcome, human," Vraxos said, his voice deep and calm. "You have been chosen to witness something that has never been seen by your kind. Something no one else has opened for thousands of cycles." Harris nodded. "I am honored, Commander. I will do my best to understand." Vraxos motioned for him to follow. They walked through corridors that seemed endless, each more magnificent than the last. Walls were covered in glowing symbols and floors shifted color as they passed. Harris tried to memorize everything, but his mind kept wandering to the stories he had heard about the legendary vault. No alien had been able to open it, not with tools, not with magic, not with their strongest technology. Some even whispered that it chose its own visitor, but no one knew how. "You must understand," Vraxos said as they moved, "this is not a test of strength or intelligence. It is a test of spirit. Most who have tried have failed because they sought power, not understanding." Harris felt a strange excitement mixed with fear. He was not here to seek power. He had only come to learn, to witness, and perhaps, in his small human way, to do what no one else could. They passed a room filled with statues, each one representing a species that had tried and failed. Harris studied them. Some looked proud, some terrified, some sad. Every face told the same story. They had come hoping to open the vault, and they had left empty-handed. He wondered if humans were even worthy. Finally, they reached a massive set of doors, taller than any building on Earth and carved from a single black stone that seemed to absorb light. The symbols on it glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat. Harris could feel a warmth coming from the stone, almost like it was alive. "This," Vraxos said, "is the legendary vault. For centuries, it has held secrets of the galaxy, knowledge beyond imagining, treasures that could change the course of any civilization. Yet no one has opened it. No one except, perhaps, a human." Harris blinked. He had never expected that. The other aliens were staring at him, their expressions a mix of disbelief and curiosity. He swallowed hard. Could it be true? Could humans, a young species just learning to explore space, be the ones capable of opening this ancient vault? Vraxos stepped aside. "You may approach. But remember, this is not a challenge to boast about. The vault chooses or it does not. You cannot force it." Harris took a deep breath. He walked forward slowly, each step echoing in the silent chamber. His heart beat faster, but he tried to calm himself. He studied the symbols on the doors. They were strange, yet somehow familiar, like a memory he could not place. He reached out, his fingers hovering just above the surface. For a moment, everything felt still. The other aliens watched him with wide eyes. Some leaned forward as if to catch a glimpse of a miracle. Harris could feel the weight of their expectations, the history of those who had failed before him. And yet he felt calm. Somehow he knew this was not about strength, not about intelligence. It was about something else, something deeper. He took another step closer. The air seemed to hum around him as if the vault itself was breathing. Harris lifted his hand, feeling a strange warmth under his palm. He did not know what would happen next, but he was ready to try. The doors waited. Silent. Ancient. Impossible. And the human walked forward. Captain Harris stood before the massive doors of the legendary vault, his hand still hovering above the glowing symbols. The air was thick with tension. Around him, the other aliens waited silently, their glowing eyes fixed on him. Harris could feel their doubt, their curiosity, their expectation. None of them had ever opened the vault, yet somehow here he was, a single human, standing at the threshold. The door was enormous, taller than any building Harris had ever seen. Its surface was black but seemed alive, pulsing faintly as though it had a rhythm all its own. Symbols carved into the stone shimmered, forming patterns that shifted and moved. Some were like geometric shapes, others looked like letters from an ancient language. Harris studied them carefully. Though he could not read them, he felt something strange, a sense of recognition deep inside him. It was as if the door itself was speaking in a language older than any he had learned. Commander Vraxos, standing beside him, spoke quietly. The vault does not yield to force or machines. No technology, no weapon, no spell can open it. It chooses its own visitor. Many have tried, many have failed. Perhaps you are different. Harris nodded, though he did not understand what different meant. He did not feel special. He was just a human, small and young compared to the creatures around him. But he also felt calm. He did not want power or treasure. He only wanted to see, to understand, to do what needed to be done. Vraxos handed him a set of tools, scanners, gloves and small devices that could detect energy. Some have tried these, the commander said. They did not work. Use them if you wish, but do not expect results. Harris looked at the tools, then back at the vault. He shook his head and set them aside. He did not need them. Something inside him told him that this was not about machines or strength. He stepped closer, his fingers brushing lightly against the stone surface. Immediately, a soft warmth spread through his palm, like the gentle pulse of life. He paused, feeling the hum of the door beneath his hand. The room seemed to hold its breath. The alien delegates leaned forward, their expressions a mix of astonishment and disbelief. Harris felt their eyes on him but did not look away. Instead, he focused on the warmth, the subtle rhythm beneath his fingers. He could feel the energy of the vault flowing into him, connecting to something deep within. Slowly, Harris pressed his hand against the surface. The symbols flared, glowing brighter, almost as if they were alive. Light ran along the carvings like water through a stream, and the pulse he felt became stronger. The hum in the air grew louder, resonating in his chest, in his mind. For a moment, he felt weightless, as if he were floating inside the energy of the vault. Vraxos watched carefully, his expression unreadable. "It is responding," he said softly. "Do you feel it?" Harris nodded. "Yes. It's alive." He did not know how else to describe it. The vault was not a door, not a wall. It was something more, a being, a guardian, ancient and wise. It was waiting, testing, understanding. The light spread along the door, and then the surface began to shift. Stone moved like liquid, patterns rearranging themselves in ways that defied logic. Harris could feel a force pushing back, gentle but firm, as if the vault were alive and breathing around him. He did not pull back. He let the energy flow through him, letting the warmth guide his hand, letting instinct lead his touch. Suddenly there was a loud pulse and the door shuddered. The symbols glowed like stars, and the massive black surface began to split apart slowly, revealing a narrow slit of light. Harris stepped back slightly, amazed. The vault was opening. After thousands of years, after countless failures, the human had triggered its response. The room was silent. The other aliens stared, their mouths open, their limbs frozen in disbelief. Whispers began to spread, low hums and clicks of astonishment. Harris could feel their astonishment, but he did not smile. He had not done it for recognition. He had done it because he had trusted what he felt inside, and it had been enough. The slit of light grew wider, showing glimpses of what lay beyond. Strange shapes floated in the glow, objects of impossible beauty and complexity. Harris could see crystal structures hovering in midair, glowing with soft energy. He could see maps of stars that did not exist in current records, artifacts that seemed older than time itself. Vraxos finally spoke, his voice trembling slightly. "It has never opened like this before, never to one so young." Harris stepped closer, peering into the opening. His heart raced with excitement and awe. He had always known humans were curious, capable of thinking differently, seeing connections others could not. But he had never imagined that curiosity could unlock something so ancient, so powerful. For a brief moment, time seemed to stop. The room, the aliens, even the vault itself, all seemed to pause, waiting. Harris's hand hovered over the entrance, and he realized that this moment was more than chance. The vault had not opened because he had strength or tools. It had opened because he had something more important. A calm mind, a pure intention, and the courage to trust what he felt. As the doors continued to open slowly, light spilling into the chamber, Harris took a deep breath. The journey inside the legendary vault was about to begin. He did not know what he would find, but he was ready. After all, he was the human who had dared to step forward, the human who had touched the impossible, and the human who had been chosen. Harris stepped closer to the vault as the massive doors slowly opened, light spilling into the chamber like a river of stars. The air was thick with energy, warm and alive, making his skin tingle. Around him, the alien delegates leaned forward, their eyes wide with disbelief. None of them had ever seen the vault respond like this. Some whispered in low tones, others just stared, frozen in shock. Harris felt the weight of all those gazes but did not falter. He reached out his hand, placing it gently on the glowing surface inside the vault. Immediately, a pulse ran through him, stronger than anything he had ever felt. It was not dangerous, but powerful, like the heartbeat of the universe itself. The symbols beneath his hand shone brighter, dancing with light that seemed to respond to his touch. Harris froze for a moment, overwhelmed, but he did not pull back. The vault trembled. Light streamed upward, forming shapes that hovered in the air. Strange glyphs floated before his eyes, moving in patterns that seemed to tell a story. Harris could not read them, but he felt the meaning in his mind, like whispers of a language older than stars. His pulse quickened as he realized the vault was not only responding, it was communicating. The alien commanders murmured among themselves. Commander Vraxos, who had always been calm and composed, now looked astonished. It recognizes him, Vraxos said quietly. It has never chosen anyone so willingly. Harris did not understand why the vault had chosen him. He was just a human, small and young compared to these ancient beings. But he felt a strange calm inside him. He had no desire for power or fame. He wanted to see, to learn, to understand. Perhaps the vault sensed that. The light around his hand began to spiral, forming a tunnel of colors and symbols. Harris could feel the air vibrating with energy. The chamber echoed with a low hum, like the sound of 1,000 voices singing in harmony. For a moment, the other aliens seemed to fade from his sight. It was just him and the vault, connected by something invisible yet undeniable. Harris moved his fingers slowly across the glowing surface, tracing the patterns as if following a rhythm only he could feel. The vault pulsed in response, stronger with every gentle movement. It was as if the ancient structure had been waiting for someone who would not rush it, someone who would touch it with care and understanding rather than force. A sudden wave of light burst from the vault, brighter than anything Harris had seen. He shielded his eyes, and when he looked again, the symbols had rearranged themselves. Doors, previously hidden within the light, had opened, revealing a space beyond that seemed impossible. It stretched infinitely, filled with floating objects, glowing crystals and holographic images of stars and galaxies. Harris felt a mix of fear and awe. Vraxos stepped closer, his golden eyes wide. "No one has ever opened it like this," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "No one has ever touched it in the way you have." Harris swallowed hard. He did not feel like a hero. He felt small, almost like a child stepping into a giant's world. Yet, at the same time, he felt connected to something much larger than himself. The vault was not just a door or a container. It was alive, ancient, and wise. It had recognized him not for strength but for courage, patience, and respect. The light continued to grow, illuminating the faces of the alien delegates. They could see the impossible. A human, their youngest and least advanced member, opening a vault that had defied every other species for millennia. Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber, a mixture of awe, fear, and disbelief. Some of the aliens fell to their knees, believing they were witnessing a miracle. Others simply stared, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Harris reached further inside the vault, letting the light guide his movements. Floating above him were objects of incredible beauty, star maps with constellations no one had recorded, crystals humming with energy, and devices that seemed to bend the rules of physics. He realized that this was knowledge and power far beyond what any civilization had ever achieved. Yet Harris did not feel greedy. He did not reach for the treasures or attempt to take them. He only observed, learning, absorbing the patterns and connections the vault offered. Somehow he understood that the true test had not been opening the door. The test had been what he would do once it opened. The vault pulsed one final time, and the light stabilized, revealing a clear path forward. Harris could step inside fully now. He looked at Vraxos and the other delegates who were staring at him in silent awe. He nodded once, quietly, and took a cautious step into the glowing chamber. The moment his feet touched the floor inside, he felt a rush of energy, like countless stars passing through him. The vault had accepted him. It had chosen a human, not for strength, not for cunning, but for heart, for curiosity, for the willingness to trust the unknown. Harris looked around, his eyes wide with wonder. The objects floated gently around him, glowing with light and energy. Holograms of ancient civilizations flickered in the air, showing humans he had never known, guiding species he had never met. He realized that humanity's place in the galaxy was far older and far more important than anyone had imagined. Outside the vault, Vraxos whispered to the assembly, "The human has done what no one else could. The vault has chosen humanity." Harris stood in silence, overwhelmed yet calm. He had opened the impossible. And he knew that this was only the beginning. Harris stepped fully into the vault, his eyes wide as he took in the incredible scene. The light inside was soft yet bright, illuminating objects that seemed impossible. Crystals hovered in midair, glowing with colors he had never seen before. Floating holograms of stars, planets, and entire galaxies spun slowly around him, each showing intricate patterns of movement that seemed to tell stories. Harris felt a shiver of awe run down his spine. He walked slowly, careful not to touch anything too quickly. Every step he took made the floor hum beneath him, as if acknowledging his presence. The vault felt alive, not in a threatening way, but like a guardian welcoming him. It was as if it had been waiting for someone like him, not for power or greed but for understanding. Harris reached out to a floating crystal that pulsed softly in his hand. It was warm, almost like it had a heartbeat. When he touched it, a wave of images and knowledge filled his mind. He saw humans he had never met, ancient and wise, guiding civilizations across the stars. He saw other species building empires and learning from these humans long ago. Somehow, humans had been a part of the galaxy long before anyone remembered. He stepped back stunned. The vault was showing him the hidden history of his species. Humans were not newcomers. They had been forgotten architects of the galaxy, scattered and hidden by time, waiting for a moment to return. Harris felt a mix of pride and humility. He had always known humans were clever and adaptable, but he had never imagined they had been so important. Floating above the center of the vault was a large crystal shaped like a constellation. It looked strangely familiar. Harris recognized the pattern immediately. It was Earth. The crystal pulsed gently as if alive. He reached out to it and instantly the vault seemed to respond, shifting the surrounding holograms to show maps of human influence across countless worlds. Vraxos stepped forward, his golden eyes wide with astonishment. It confirms what I feared and hoped, he said. Humans are not as simple as we believed. You are the heirs of the first makers, the architects of civilizations across this galaxy. Harris shook his head, overwhelmed. I don't understand. We're just humans. We're young, small, not advanced enough. Vraxos smiled faintly. That is what makes it so remarkable. The vault has waited for the right spirit, not the strongest or the smartest. You did not approach it with arrogance or greed. You approached it with curiosity, patience, and respect. That is why it opened. Harris took a deep breath and looked around. The vault was filled with knowledge and power, but it was not dangerous. It was a place of learning, of understanding. The artifacts, the maps, the crystals, they were guides meant to help whoever could unlock them. He realized that this knowledge was not a weapon. It was a responsibility. As he moved through the chamber, the floating holograms adjusted to his movements. He could see the histories of countless species, the rise and fall of civilizations, and the guiding hand of humans in ways he had never imagined. Every image seemed to teach him something new. He felt the weight of history, of knowledge, and of expectation. Vraxos watched him carefully. You must understand, he said, that what you see here is not just for humans. It is for the galaxy. Knowledge is not meant to be hoarded. It is meant to be shared, to guide all species toward understanding and peace. Harris nodded slowly. He understood. The vault had chosen him, yes, but it had not given him power. It had given him insight, a chance to lead with wisdom rather than force. He felt a sense of purpose he had never known before. Humans were not just survivors or explorers. They were teachers, guides, and a part of the galaxy's deep history. The crystal at the center pulsed again, projecting a vision of the stars. Harris saw humans and aliens working together, learning together, building something greater than themselves. He felt hope, not just for humanity but for the entire galaxy. If the vault had chosen him, perhaps it had chosen humans to help unite civilizations, to bring understanding where there had been fear. He turned to Vraxos. We need to share this, Harris said. Not to control, not to dominate, but to help everyone understand. This knowledge, it belongs to all of us. Vraxos nodded slowly. That is why it chose you. Not for what you could take but for what you could give. Harris moved carefully through the vault, absorbing the knowledge it offered, understanding the history it revealed, and feeling the responsibility it placed upon him. The light, the crystals, the holograms, all seemed to recognize his purpose. He was not just a human among aliens. He was a human who could bridge worlds, a human who could restore what had been forgotten, a human who could guide the galaxy toward a future shaped by cooperation rather than conquest. As he stood in the center, the vault seemed to pulse gently around him, almost like a heartbeat. Harris realized that this moment was not about him alone. It was about humanity, about the chance to reconnect with the galaxy and fulfill a destiny that had been waiting for thousands of years. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight and the hope of what lay ahead. The legendary vault had opened, the secrets had been revealed, and a human had stepped forward to see them. Harris knew that nothing would ever be the same again, not for him, not for humanity, and not for the galaxy. Harris stepped out of the vault, his mind still swirling with everything he had seen. The alien delegates waited silently, their eyes wide with awe. No one spoke at first. The chamber was heavy with the energy of the vault, the soft glow of its light spilling across the walls, and the presence of history that had just revealed itself. Harris felt the weight of it all but also a sense of calm. He had done what no one else had done. He had opened the impossible. Commander Vraxos stepped forward, his expression a mixture of pride, astonishment, and humility. "I have seen many things in my long life," he said, his voice low but clear, "but I have never seen such a display of understanding, patience, and courage. A human has opened the legendary vault." Whispers began to ripple through the assembly. Aliens of all shapes and sizes leaned closer, murmuring to each other. They had heard stories, legends of humans being curious, clever, and brave, but no one had expected this. A young species, barely exploring the stars, had just achieved what their oldest civilizations had failed to do. Harris looked around at them. He could feel their awe, their disbelief, even their fear. Some were afraid of what this might mean, a new power rising in the galaxy. Others were amazed, thinking perhaps humans could lead, guide, or teach. Harris raised his hands slightly, not in command but in peace. "I did not do this for power," he said softly. "I did not open the vault to control or dominate. I opened it to learn, to understand, and to share what we learn with everyone." The chamber fell silent again. Then, slowly, the murmurs of approval and wonder grew louder. Vraxos nodded. "This is the choice of the vault," he said. "It has not only opened to a human but through a human. You have shown that humans are not just explorers. You have shown that they are wise, patient, and capable of understanding what others cannot." Harris felt a strange warmth in his chest. He had expected congratulations or praise, but what he wanted was something deeper, recognition of humanity's potential. And here it was, reflected in the eyes of beings who had lived for thousands of cycles, beings who had seen empires rise and fall. For the first time, he felt humanity truly mattered in the galaxy. The delegates began to approach slowly, one by one, their curiosity now turning into respect. They asked questions about what he had seen, about the vault, and about humanity. Harris answered carefully, sharing only what could help them understand. He did not speak of dominance or conquest, only of cooperation and learning. Vraxos placed a hand on his shoulder, a gesture of honor in Zirathi culture. "The vault chooses not just the strong but the wise," he said. "It has chosen humanity through you. We must listen and we must learn." Harris nodded. He realized that this moment was not about him alone. It was about humans stepping into their place in the galaxy, not as conquerors but as guides and partners. The vault had revealed not just knowledge but responsibility. Humans had a role to play, a chance to help shape the future of civilizations, to restore balance and understanding. Outside the vault, the news began to spread. Ships in orbit, observers from distant worlds, even species who had never left their planets, began to learn that humans were no longer just newcomers. They were part of the deep history of the galaxy. They were heirs to ancient wisdom. And they were capable of things that no one had imagined. Harris watched as the alien delegates began to share their own knowledge with him, offering insights, advice, and stories of their own civilizations. The room buzzed with energy, not of fear or competition, but of cooperation. Harris understood that the opening of the vault had done more than reveal knowledge. It had started a new era, one where humans and aliens could work together, where civilizations could learn from each other, and where the galaxy might finally begin to unite. Vraxos turned to the assembly and spoke with quiet authority. "Let it be known," he said, "that the vault has chosen a human. Let it be known that humans are no longer to be underestimated. And let it be known that we have much to learn from them, just as they have much to learn from us." Harris felt a sense of awe and responsibility. He had opened the impossible, but he knew that the real work was only beginning. The knowledge of the vault was vast, and it would take years, perhaps decades, to fully understand it. But he was ready. Humanity was ready. They would not take this knowledge for themselves alone. They would share it, guide with it, and use it to bring hope, understanding, and peace to the galaxy. As he looked around the chamber one last time, Harris realized something remarkable. The vault had opened, yes. But it had opened not just to him but to humanity itself. The ancient secrets, the forgotten histories, and the incredible knowledge were now part of their legacy. Humans had a role in shaping the future, a chance to guide civilizations, and a responsibility to honor what had been revealed. And for the first time, Harris felt that humans were not just observers in the galaxy. They were participants, teachers, and leaders. The legendary vault had recognized humanity's potential. And now the galaxy would too. The light from the vault bathed the chamber in a soft, golden glow. Aliens and humans alike looked on, united in wonder and possibility. Harris smiled quietly. This was only the beginning. The human story among the stars had truly begun, and nothing would ever be the same again.